Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan are easily regarded as two of the greatest players to ever pick up a basketball. Many people have Michael Jordan as the greatest of all time, with Kobe Bryant somewhere not far behind. Of course, we have that segment of fans who call Kobe Bryant the copy of Michael Jordan as if it's some kind of insult, to which I simply respond, if it was so easy to copy Michael Jordan, then, well, why didn't every player do it? But regardless of what you think about Kobe or Michael, there's no denying that the two gave us many of the best performances in NBA history, and today I'm here to put a microscope on two specific ones to find out which was actually more impressive. But before we get to that part of the video, I unfortunately have to throw this in. As of late, YouTube is making life really hard for creators and viewers alike, so if you like to support my content, not only do you have to subscribe to me just for a chance to actually see my videos, but now they also want you to hit the bell next to my name so you can actually get notified about them. Go figure. So if you're one of the subs that have been complaining in the comment section that you haven't been seeing my videos, do yourself a favor and hit the bell, and hopefully you'll actually be notified about them. And if you're one of the subs that mysteriously gets unsubscribed from my channel from time to time, you can follow me on Twitter. I have all my social media links in the description, and you can follow me there because I pretty much always tell you when the video is out. So that's about all we can do until YouTube gets their shit together. So in the games leading up to January 22nd, 2006, something special was really bound to happen, because if you look at the averages before that, Kobe Bryant was already averaging 40 points a game, and when you go back and look at the tape, he really just had no intention on losing to the lowly Raptors that day. And he propelled himself to the historic 81-point game, passing the likes of both Elgin Baylor and Wilt Chamberlain for a single game scoring record for the Los Angeles Lakers. Not only that, but he was only 19 points away from Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game, and nobody ever thought that would be broken. Although he didn't break it, he got kinda close, and it raised some eyebrows thinking, you know, what if it does happen someday? Rewind the clock exactly 20 years and we find ourselves at the Bulls-Celtics playoff matchup in 1986. Now, this was only Michael Jordan's second year in the NBA, so he hadn't accomplished anything that we know of today. However, this was a huge stepping stone, because in Game 2 of this series, Michael Jordan scored 63 points, and this is a record that still stands today for a playoff series. Michael Jordan did everything in his power to carry the Bulls past the Celtics that series, but he would come up empty all 3 times, including the 63-point game. But even though Michael Jordan scored 18 less points than Kobe Bryant in this performance, when you break down both the performances and look at them side by side, there's a serious debate that could be had about which was more impressive, and that's what I'm gonna do now. So of course the most logical thing to do here is put both stats side by side on the same page so you can kind of see and compare what they did these games. So Kobe Bryant has the advantage with points and turnovers, Michael won with blocks and steals. Kobe Bryant had more rebounds and a better field goal percentage, although he did take more shots, but it was still very efficient. And he also played less minutes than Michael Jordan in this game. I didn't mention earlier that Michael Jordan's game actually went into double overtime. And just right off the bat, it's very impressive that Kobe Bryant was able to put up 81 points in 41 minutes with no overtime period. Even more impressive than that is that he did that on 60% field goal shooting, but let's dig into why that may have happened. Now, I absolutely won't be taking credit away from Kobe Bryant's 81-point game because I would sound like a buffoon if I tried to do that. However, there is an argument to be made when you're comparing it to Michael's performance, because Kobe did this against one of the worst defensive teams at the time, and maybe if you looked it up in history, they might be one of the worst all-time defensively. And not only do stats not lie, but the tape doesn't either. First of all, the Raptors ended that year 27-55. They were an absolutely terrible team. The only thing they had resembling a star at that time was Chris Bosh, and their defense was absolutely atrocious as they ranked 29 out of 30 in opposing points per game, and they were also 29th in defensive rating. So, you know, if you don't want to listen to stats, whatever, but check out the videotape, because in the first half, Kobe Bryant just absolutely killed their defense. Not only could nobody stay in front of him, but there wasn't really any help defense coming to stop him either. This resulted in a lot of open layups, a lot of easy cuts to the rim, and there was really just nobody opposing him for the first half. However, to be fair, the tape also tells another story. So, the Kobe Bryant scored 26 points in the first half when there was really nobody on him. In the second half, obviously they tried to D him up a little bit more, but by then it was too late. He was already in the zone and he scored 55 points in the second half. Now, I don't want to downplay MJ's accomplishment or anything, but when you tell me Kobe Bryant scored 55 points in the second half, that's almost as much as MJ scored for that entire game, double overtime included, so there's something going for Kobe right there. The defense still wasn't all that great, but it was definitely more contested than it was in the first half, although he did end up with quite a few open 3-pointers in this half. However, on the contrary, for Michael Jordan's performance, both the stat and the tape work together to really paint a nice picture for Michael. You can start off by just going off the team. So the Boston Celtics were one of the greatest teams of all time, everyone already knows that. They had the likes of Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, and they had some good support pieces as well. They went 67-15 that year, so obviously that's up there with some of the all-time records, and they were ranked 3rd in opposing points per game and 1st in defensive rating that year. Shortly after disposing Michael Jordan and the Bulls, the Celtics went on to win the championship, so yes, I can say Michael Jordan had his performance against a championship team. Something else that works for Michael here is that he didn't have a great team either, so I know Kobe Bryant didn't have a good team, but he was going against the Raptors. Michael Jordan didn't have a good team, but he was in the playoffs and he was against one of the best teams of all time. And when you look at the tape, just check out some of these shots because Michael had to work for every point he got. So of course there are some points where he just slipped free, he very rarely got some open jump shots, but you pay attention to the tape and you see him driving to the rim. Every time he goes there, the Celtics kind of try to crowd him in the paint. Some of the times they fouled him, sometimes they just brought some help defenders, and he was still making these shots. So none of this 63 was coming easy for MJ the way it was for Kobe in the first half, where he was just slipping in for open layups with very little resistance. I have two other things I feel I should bring up here that make this performance even sweeter for Michael Jordan. So as I said, this is in the playoffs and obviously the game goes to another level there, but again, this was a series and this was game 2 of that series. In game 1, Michael Jordan scored 49 points and they were blown out, so he had to up it even more to try to get his team the W here and score 63 the very next game. But wait, there's more. Michael Jordan, for those of you who didn't know because it seemed like he was virtually never hurt, he actually broke his foot in the second season of his career. When he did break his foot, it was only the 3rd game of the season. He ended up coming back around March, so he finished the season with a total of 18 games played and 7 games started. Mind you that this performance came in the first round of the playoffs, so not only is Michael fresh off of an injury, he's basically fresh off of his rookie year because he hadn't even played that much. Normally when a player breaks a bone in his body or tears a muscle, it takes some time to get reacclimated to the speed of the game. You know, it just takes time to get back to normal. Michael's fresh off of the year scoring 49 points and 63 points the next game, and he's only a sophomore. That performance was so amazing, it even got Larry Bird to say, "I think it's just God disguised as Michael Jordan." Kobe still has something going for him though, because if you didn't know, this was a come from behind win. Now the Lakers weren't that good either. They weren't as bad as the Raptors, but they weren't that good, and in that game they fell down by as many as 18 points, with the score being 71-53. So not only did Kobe Bryant score 81 points, he did that to will his team to victory, and they ended up winning that game by about 20 points. But here comes a point that I don't know how you guys are going to take it. I don't know if you're going to say it's good for Kobe or better for MJ, because if you break down the stats again, Kobe Bryant actually scored 7 3-pointers that game. And you do the math, that converts to 21 points. So 21 out of his 81 came from the 3-point line. However, taking a look at Michael Jordan's stat line, he didn't score any 3-pointers that night. He had 63 points off of 2-pointers, and sometimes he got fouled and got an and one, and then there was free throws in there. So I don't know if it's more impressive that Kobe Bryant was dialing it down from long range, or it's more impressive that Michael had 63 points without the 3-point shot. I don't know, that's for you guys to decide. So I made small mention of this earlier, but it's definitely worth a bigger portion of the video, and it's that, again, Kobe Bryant did this during a regular season in January, not taking away from it, I'm just stating facts, and Michael Jordan did his in the playoffs. So just like nobody has touched 81 points and likely will not touch 81 points again for a very long time, the 63-point game is still standing as well in the playoffs, and nobody's touched that either, so who knows when that's going to happen. I want to give my opinion now because, to be honest, there's not much more to say when you're comparing these. These are both great overall performances. I've pretty much given you everything you can compare for them. So if you're asking me, after reviewing the stats and going over both the game tapes, I would have to give Michael Jordan's 63-point performance the edge. And I know that's going to piss a lot of people off because 81 has been a gold standard for any Kobe Bryant argument in the last decade pretty much, because that's when it happened. But even when you play back this video, I think there's just too much working in the favor of Michael Jordan when you talk about which is more impressive. So again, you have the fact that Michael was going up against one of the greatest teams of all time in the playoffs, and there's not many people who could have scored 63 points against a Celtics defense. The degree of difficulty on his shots are pretty high because, again, they're always being defended, there's a hand up, there's multiple bodies coming towards him. And then even when you look at the efficiency, even though Kobe Bryant won the battle with that because he made 60% of his field goals, you think about Michael Jordan, again, going against one of the top defenses in the league, he still scored 53% on that 63. And I think the deal breaker for me is that Michael was only in his second year coming off of a broken foot being able to do this. That is pretty godlike when you can, all those things considered, the team he was going against, the atmosphere of the playoffs, the injury, the fact that you don't know the NBA that well just yet. The fact he was able to do that, I'm sorry, but that's the deal breaker. And I want to make it extremely clear, just because I know anytime you say MJ, Kobe, or LeBron, people get extremely emotional. I'm not taking anything away from Kobe Bryant's 81-point game. As a matter of fact, his 81-point game is still one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. And I'm pretty sure that if I were to go through history, Michael Jordan's game against the Celtics is probably the only performance that you could get me to put over Kobe Bryant's 81, because it takes something pretty special. And when I go down the checklist, MJ definitely meets all those requirements that I would really need to put something over Kobe's performance. So when I say Kobe Bryant did these things against a weaker defense or wasn't in the playoffs, I'm only saying that for the sake of putting it up against Michael Jordan's performance. If you were to just ask me to judge Kobe Bryant's 81-point game, with no comparison, you would get a completely different analysis, because that is still the second most amazing performance in NBA history in my eyes. Anyways, that's all I have to say about this topic. Now, I actually got this video idea from somebody who emailed me. His name is Theo, and the link to his website is in the description, and it's also in the comment below the video, so you can go check out his music if you want to. I'm always open to suggestions, because pretty much every video on my channel has been my idea. It's something that I wrote down and eventually got to, but lately I've been getting emails and tweets of people saying, hey, you should do this video or you should do that, and some of them are great ideas that actually make their way to YouTube, like this one was. So, I'm going to continue to go down my notebook and my list of videos and do those, but if you have something you want to see me talk about, like this topic, because this was suggested to me, feel free. I would probably have never compared Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's performance if it wasn't for somebody emailing me about it, because they're just both great performances, and I never even thought to look at them side by side, but I'm glad I did, because I had a lot of fun with it. Anyways, that's it for today. You can go check out my last video if you want to make some jokes about some other teams that blew a 3-1 lead. Make sure if you're gonna subscribe to me, or if you're already subscribed, hit that bell, because YouTube likes to make it a lot harder than it needs to be to actually see my videos. If you do, I appreciate it. Feel free to tell me which performance you thought was better, because I know there's going to be varying opinions all across the board. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next video.